Hello all, just wanted to give you an update on some fields that I've been working on more for my 6mm ACW project. So one of the first ones I'm going to talk about is kind of this terry cloth, I think it's called. Just simple wash rags that I bought off Amazon, super cheap. They came in kind of your standard 1 foot square things. I spray painted the base of this, and then I came in and actually did some dry brushing on there in a couple of different colors of greens to give some variation. Pretty happy with how it came out. I like the texture on there. It looks kind of like a harvested field, maybe even a tobacco field would be the look of it. So pretty happy with how that turned out. I did another color scheme for it. I did a kind of lighter tan with some green on top of that. Not for sure if I really like that or not. It might be interesting to kind of go back in and redo this in kind of standard green background and then highlight the green on top of that. That might look better. So I might try that in the future. And then I also did kind of your standard corduroy fields. So this is just corduroy material. And then I have gone in with an oil pastel and gone across the grain and then with the grain. I did that in two different colors. One, the darker color, I went across the grain, and the lighter color, I went with the grain. And it gave me some nice variation. Up close, it looks really good. A little bit farther away, you can still see that there's some line to it. So I think it's a pretty good material for it. So I really like the green. I did one in yellow to kind of represent maybe a harvested wheat field. Not as happy with how those turned out. Still okay, but I really like how the green looked. So this is kind of just your standard corduroy material, brown. And then on the back side, what I did was I just take a can of spray paint and I just spray around the edge. And then that keeps the material from fraying. I'm sure it would if you really wanted to push it, but it definitely keeps it a little bit more locked in and glued together. And then after you spray that, then you come in and trim it up so that it's nice and neat, because you always get some frays and whatnot when you're working with that material. This is an example of kind of what not to do. I mean, it's not too bad. It's kind of interesting, but what I did on this was I tried use the same material, same way, and I came in and I actually dipped it in some water with some paint. That stiffened up the material. You can kind of even hear it as I'm holding it. But the problem is then getting that to lay flat is practically impossible. Even press this down and stuff. And so when you come across it with your oil pastel, it picks up some nice spots, but then it always picks up the folds, which I just don't think looks terribly good. Just remember, if you're doing these sorts of fields, you need to use oil pastel and not kind of the chalk pastel. So oil pastel is something completely different. The last kind of field that I have here, kind of standard teddy bear fur field. I'm always pretty happy with how they look. Again, I dipped this in a solution of water with some paint. It stiffened it up. It stiffened up the fur. It also gave it some color so that it's not just that plain same color all over the place. Pretty happy with how it comes out. This is a little tall for 6mm. You can kind of see how tall that is. So it's a little tall for it, but not too bad, particularly when you get the sense that it's going to be out on the field. And you're going to have units walking around. It sits nicely. So I kind of like stiffening it up a little bit. It still gives you some flexibility. So that's 3 different field ideas. I am going to work on cornfields in the future, but just haven't got the materials together yet, and the experiments that I have done so far, just not been real happy with them. So still working on how I'm going to come up with cornfields, and I will give you guys that video later. Have a good time. I hope you're doing well, and I hope this helps you with your gaming.